To start, can I just ask each of you to tell us about the job that you currently do and kind of your pathway into it? So, did you go to university or an apprenticeship? Just to give us a bit of background of where you've got to today. So, Beth, can I ask you to start?
Yes, hi, thanks, Becky. My role at the moment is Creative Director for our Media City campus at the University of Salford. It's a great role. It's about engaging with industry, working with young people to get them to be able to meet employers, meet industry, understand the kind of pathways that are open to them. I think my route to here is, it's quite convoluted. I did start off in industry, and I think when you look back on your experiences, as the famous Steve Jobs said, you can see the dots joining up, and I'm probably approaching the age where I can see the dots joining up now. But I started off with a passion for TV and animation way back when, all because of 2 weeks work experience that just happened to fall upon me. I was very lucky, really. So I really understand from that the fact that doors need to be opened. And until that point, until I walked into Cosgrove Hall and met Danger Mouse and Penfold, I had no idea really that there was a world of media as it was back then, far from it now really. But I didn't know that because I hadn't ever been sort of exposed to that. I didn't realise that it existed. So I guess I'm quite passionate in that sense of making sure that people know what's out there, what roles there are, what jobs there are, what creative aspirations you can have and what routes you can follow. So and then from there, I went off to university, I got a degree, I carried on doing sort of work experience where I could. Then I got into the industry. Eventually I worked at ITV, what was back then Granada TV. And then I became freelance, working at the BBC and various production companies. And then I went to work in museums, working with media and young people and getting young people interested in media, the history of media, making media, working with all sorts of people. And then I started working at Salford University, and then I got a role as leading their MA in documentary. And from there, it's been a journey of exploration within sort of Salford University. So I guess I'm a bit of a portfolio careerist before it even was invented. But that I have loved about it. And I think that's what I love about the creative industries. And when people say kind of where do you work, I work at the University of Salford, but I very much root myself as well in the creative industries, which is to support our students, to get them those opportunities, and to network and to make friends in lots of different places. So I've met Becky recently, and that's been really brilliant, and lots of doors have opened through that. So I guess you continue learning, you continue working, and that's where I am. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Beth. Caroline, do you want to tell us kind of what you do and how you came into that role?
Yeah, wow, follow that. Really interesting. So yeah, I'm Caroline. I am the early careers advisor at Auto Trader. So I look after all of our apprentices, all of our graduates and our returners and retrainers. And I also support their supporters as well. So their line managers, their buddies, everyone that sort of surrounds them really, and look after their journey with us in their early career at Auto Trader. In terms of how I got here, I actually went to Salford University, did my degree there in performing arts, so completely different. And I had a real love for music and theatre. And then as I went through my career, I moved into learning and development. So I was working with a lot of young people, supporting them as they started in new roles, in how to kind of understand their role, training them in kind of systems and processes and things like that. And I kind of found a real love for working with young people and supporting and developing. Did that for a really long time in learning and development, and then moved into my role in Auto Trader about a year and a half ago now. So that's more focused on supporting young people rather than learning and development as a whole. But yeah, really came from a love for working with people not so much from the tech side, it's more around supporting and working with young people and helping wherever we can in developing that career path.
Thanks, Caroline. I never knew you had a background in performing arts.
You do.
Learn something new every day.
You know.
And Emma, can we come to you, and do you want to tell us about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I head up the talent and skills team at Manchester Digital. So the people behind the Digital Her programme. I've been with Manchester Digital for about 4 years, but my background is completely outside of digital and technology. It's actually within government and the public sector. So I've worked for various governments and local councils and economic development agencies. So I've worked with sectors that are growing and are going to have lots of opportunities in the future. So I've been part of bringing on sectors like digital and helping the businesses and making sure the environment's right for those sectors to grow and thrive here in the UK. My background is I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a psychologist, and probably a few other things along the way as well. Wanted to do when I went up to university was to make a difference. That was really important to me, in see that difference quite quickly. So my degree was in politics and international relations, so was hoping to make big changes. And through the projects, and I've done lots of project management and bringing initiatives on board, and partnership working has been featured throughout my career heavily. And I became the lead for digital in a previous organisation I worked for, and really built up lots of initiatives to encourage more young people into digital technology. And that's how I started to work with Manchester Digital, and started to grow all of the things we do to get more young people and adults back in and into amazing.
Thank you. And what a diverse background everyone has, and I think that's a really great point to start off with for anyone watching, that there isn't just one route into the digital and tech industry. It can take the weird and the wonderful pathways that are available to everyone. So Emma, I'm going to stick with you. What's your favourite thing about working in the digital and tech world?
I guess for me, it's the diversity of people and companies that I get to work with. I'm really lucky in my job because I get to work with so many amazing companies and really passionate people who feel the same way as me about things. And that in itself just builds a really lovely feeling and enthusiasm for what we're doing, and if we're having a hard day or if we've got a tough challenge on or whatever it is, that really helps. So I think it's the people and the diversity of opportunity of so many things to get involved with and so many things to explore as well.
Absolutely. Caroline, what about you? What would you say you love about working in this industry?
Very similar for me, actually. Absolutely, kind of around the diversity of people and working with lots of different organisations. But I think for me, it's being able to learn all the time as well. With it not sort of being my background, every day really for me is a school day at work. So, and I love that. I love learning new things, and I love helping people to learn new things. And I don't have to be an expert in the tech world, the tech industry. It's a good job because I absolutely am not. But for me, it's just about discovering new things and learning and understanding how all of these systems and data and things like that, how they support everything that we do in the bigger picture, really. So, yeah, the opportunities to learn for me is probably the thing I love the most.
Great. And Beth, what would you say? What do you love about this?
Well, I kind of echoing everything that Emma and Caroline have said, really. I think it's that, you're on a journey. I think the openness, the creativity, it in some ways, kind of my view of, way back when I joined the media industry, in very sort of traditional broadcast industry, so making documentaries and things like that. I've never kind of stopped that journey of exploring the media And for me, you know, in the same way Caroline saying, you know, I'm not an expert in, you know, designing games, but I've got to how does it work? How does it, you know, what do you need? What are the skills people, industry are looking for? What do the companies want? So I think it's about always being on that journey, working. The students are an inspiration, actually. So working with young people for me is so important. I learn more from them than they probably learn from me. But you know, that sort of engagement, and I think it's a very open industry as well. It's a very you know, there's a lot of people in the media industry, in its widest sense, in the digital industry, that really want to share their knowledge and really want to give to the next generation. And I have this theory that it's based on the fact that, you know, it's an ideas industry, and new blood is always needed. So on one level, it's totally altruistic, it's totally them giving, but they also know they need the next generation, because they're the people who are going to give them those good ideas. And actually, it needs new blood all the time. It needs creative thinking. So I guess the energy, pace, you know, like Emma said, you're meeting different people all the time. And for me, that's just, you know, why I would say to people, you know, come on, join the creative industries. And I do group them all together. So, you know, the sort of performance side of Caroline, you know, that's fantastic. So all those things Caroline learned and discovered on that path will absolutely be feeding into what she's doing now. So, you know, there's never anything wasted, I think, in learning. And that's, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think your point there about, obviously Caroline come from like a different learning background. Digital and tech is involved in that, to, you know, to put shows on, to make TV, to whatever you do. Digital and tech is involved in it right now, and I think that's a really important point to make. And I think, you know, there's such an opportunity out there for young people these days. I think you mentioned it right at the start, Beth, that you didn't know what was out there until you happened to go on that work experience. And I think that's what we're hoping for today, that we'll give people a bit of a glimpse into what is out there and what is possible, because all these things that we use every day, people are behind them and making them work. So if we think about people that are trying to, like young people that are trying to get into, whether it's education or into employment, and you all obviously work in kind of very different areas, what are the traits that you think, whether it's what your organisation looks for, or if it's the university, what are the traits that organisations really value in young people coming into these, like I said, either into a new role or onto a course these days? Caroline, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so for us here at Auto Trader, I would say curiosity is hugely important for us. So people that really want to learn more and are passionate about understanding the role and the industry and what we do and why it's important to us, and really sort of having that drive to understand more, I think is something that we would absolutely look for. And then alongside that, collaboration as well. So working in teams, working together, and really sort of enjoying that environment of coming up with ideas with other people, collaborating, being creative. And one thing that I always look for, and I always kind of talk to the team about, is that real love for learning. I think you've got to be really passionate about that and really enjoy learning new things, because there's lots to learn. Things change all the time. Someone mentioned before as well, the pace is crazy quick. So there's always something new to learn. So they would probably be the three things for us, I would say, would be collaboration, curiosity, and a real love and drive for learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Beth, do you want to talk about what are you looking for in students coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the sort of when they leave, that's what we want them to have. You know, we want them to have that. And I think those things come about through really giving people confidence. I think particularly at Salford University, it draws on a wide range. It's very diverse and inclusive, and there's a lot of different people coming into those courses and in that mix, really. And I think it's making sure that they're confident about themselves, about the world and really giving them exposure to industry and giving them those choices. One of the other things that we're really keen on doing is building resilience. You do have to be resilient to work in so many sectors, but particularly, you know, digital media, you know, you've got to have that resilience and never being afraid to ask a question. I think that's so important, that, you know, no question is too silly, no question is too simplistic. You know, don't be afraid of asking questions, and don't, because I think sometimes young people are put under a lot of pressure to dive into a job straight away, and they've got to feel that they know everything and they know how it all works, and yet actually they don't, because, you know, there's a real difference from leaving your course and then going into that workplace. We do lots of work placements, we do lots of networking, we do lots of industry engagement, but you're always going to have that adjustment period. So we really do try and enable them to present themselves well, to talk, to be articulate, to ask questions and be brave, and really, exactly like Caroline said, be curious about the world. You know, you're going to be learning forever. And, you know, as a sort of tale, not to do myself down, but, you know, I often find myself in these conferences and conversations, and my daughter will say, why have they asked you? And I go, well, I don't know, actually, I'm not really sure. But, you know, because it's again, I guess the answer to that is we're always learning. Don't stop learning. And I would say I am learning. I'm on a journey. You know, I've learned a lot from Manchester Digital. I've learned lots from talking to, you know, Auto Trader in the past. And so it's that kind of really, really push yourself. And I think the other thing is enabling people to go into that uncomfortable zone, and that it's not, you know, everybody feels uncomfortable. Everyone feels slightly nervous. We had that session before with Jess in it, and she said, you know, she was terrified before she came on, and yet you hear her and you think, oh my goodness, she's so experienced. This woman is like dynamite, but she was nervous. And I think that's the other thing, isn't it? Push yourself into those slightly unknown territories, and that's what we try and encourage with our students. If they can leave with that, and the creativity and some of the skills that they're going to need, the skills are constantly changing, I think they're set up. But it's so important to give them that sort of, you know, platform before they take that leap of faith into the next world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right, kind of coming back to what Jess said on the last talk, that I think that's one of the things that can hold people back, isn't it? Not feeling confident or having that nervousness about going on, not knowing everything, and you're absolutely not expected to. And everyone in the industry feels like that, but we just don't show it.
I think especially for the digital hers, I think, you know, never feel you have to know 100% of everything. Never feel you have to know 70% of everything. Yeah. You know, if you can know and have ideas and be confident in that, that's good. There's a lot of people out there who get to very high places, and sometimes you think, really? You know, actually, you know, you know, you can do it, and you sometimes don't need 100% of absolutely everything.
We talk about 70-20-10 when we do our learning philosophy. So actually, 70% of the things that you learn will be learned on the job when you're doing. 20 will be from other people, your supporters that surround you, and only 10% from, you know, that sort of formal learning training. And although we say only 10%, it's still hugely important. But a lot of learning that you will do will be kind of in role and from experience. And we also, alongside that, talk to people in our early careers about, we talked about that uncomfortableness. So it's almost being comfortable, being uncomfortable. That makes sense. And getting yourself to a point where it's okay not to know everything, and accepting that actually I'm learning as I'm going, and you're there for a reason, and actually you'll get a lot of that experience as you go. So yeah, I would 100% agree with all of that you've just said, Beth. And you know, just thinking about being comfortable in that uncomfortable space, and making sure we also say that it doesn't ever get to stress. So it's great to put yourself in a position of stretch where you're sort of stretching your skills and learning new things, as long as it doesn't get to a point of stress, then, you know, you're absolutely on the right path. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jess actually mentioned that in the last talk that we had, where her favourite projects were those that made her feel uncomfortable, because that's where she learns the most.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting used to that feeling and not seeing it as a negative, seeing it as a positive, because you're actually learning. So Emma, if we come to you.
Yeah, so I guess just picking up on the point that Beth made and that Caroline expanded on, I think it is really important for us to kind of acknowledge that working in technology, actually, even more so, we have to continue to learn because of the pace of everything. And so what comes with that is being confident in saying, I don't know that, or I need to talk to experts within the team, the organisation, outside of that organisation, to constantly learn and keep yourself up to date. And that's why I think there's such a really great community within the technology industry, because we are constantly learning off each other, and that is a strength in itself. So to equip yourself with that knowledge and confidence in that will set people up really well for embedding into the technology sector, I think. But if you were to ask me sort of what are those skill sets, for me it's skills, but it's attitudes and behaviours, which are incredibly important. So all of the companies that I get to work with, and through the schools and colleges work that we do at Manchester Digital, there's time and time again things are coming up that Caroline and Beth have just talked about: curiosity, open mindset, growth mindset. So actually your currency as an employee in the technology industry, if you're constantly learning and gathering new skills and new things to do, you are worth more to an employer in the long run, because you are more attractive than someone that hasn't got all of those things plus the qualifications. So constantly learning and being able to show your learning and how you put that into practice. But problem solving skills, how to be solution focused and solve problems is really important, as well as the curiosity and collaboration. And teamwork is essential, because no matter what role you do in our industry, and even if it doesn't exist yet, you can never do it in isolation. And if you do, you're probably doing it wrong.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to head back a few years now. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self about education or employability in careers? Beth, do you want to start us off?
Gosh, it's a long time ago. What advice? I think it's sort of a mixture in a way of what we've been talking about, because I think back then it's difficult, isn't it? I would say, not being afraid to try things and going for things and not thinking. I think I probably spent a lot of my kind of early career thinking, I wasn't ready to do that and I couldn't really do that. And, maybe I've not got as much skills as that person next to me. And, and actually then I realized, no, hang on, it's not all about that. It's about you as a person. It's about what you can give to a company, an organization. It's about, are you open? Are you willing to learn? And I think leadership skills are really, really, really important. And I don't mean in terms of leading, a massive big company, because, very often you're leaving education, you're not going to step out into leading a huge company, although sometimes you might. But it's about understanding what leadership's about. So at any level within an organization, you can be a fantastic leader. And I still meet people who say, oh, leadership, but I don't lead. And I say, well, you do actually. You might only lead yourself, or, anyone can lead. It's not the same as being a manager. A manager is very different. And so I do think all those things, they weren't really, I suppose when I was going into it, they weren't really around. But, and in a way they've become much more so, which is brilliant for young people. Those things are being taught within universities. It's, enterprise, leadership, being an entrepreneur. How do you do that? How do you survive as a freelancer? All those sort of things are now taught. So I would have said to myself, just go for things, just be brave and go for those opportunities. And I guess take risks. If you can, take risks. If you're at a point in your life where you can take a risk, you can take a chance, you know, you can go and explore a new course, a new idea, a new set of friends, a new organisation, do it. Because I think that really builds on your character. And then when you do look back, you realise those dots are joining up and you think, now I'm making sense. So I don't know if that's a bit waffly, but
no,
take opportunities and don't be afraid, and don't be hemmed in by your own fears. Just go for things.
Yeah, absolutely. Emma, I can see you nodding along. What would you add to that? What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, very much all that resonated with me, and I wish someone had told me at least half of those things when I was 16. It's challenging, isn't it? Because actually sometimes there isn't someone around you that's supportive or that knows how to support you. And if you're in that situation, you're not entirely sure what to do. So you find yourself perhaps in a pathway or a subject that you're interested in, and you just go down that route because you're good at it, not necessarily thinking about your career or where it might go. And I think if you are in that situation, you've got to take ownership. You've got to take some ownership and accountability and think, this is my future. What can I do to make it the best that I can, and how am I going to set myself apart from everyone else? So what can I do? Can I go for some of that work experience? Could I spend some time talking to someone in roles that I might want to do to find out, do I actually like them? Or what types of subjects that, look into things like our digital role model, a fantastic example. And if I knew that some of them had found their career paths in that way, I'd perhaps been a bit less concerned about my early career and was I taking the right route? Because actually, you follow your natural path of what you're interested in, and that changes over time. So don't be scared of that. You make decisions based on the information you have at the time, and it isn't all set in stone.
Yeah.
Coming from education, it feels like that. And Beth, I know universities have very much changed their approach over the last decade, sort of with their students. But very much at sort of school and college, you might be thinking, "Oh, I can only do this or this," and that isn't the case. Our sector is amazing because there isn't one route in or across our sector, and that's exciting. So be brave. Have a go and try and make yourself stand out, and get some experience or talk to people.
Absolutely. Thanks, Emma. And Caroline, we'll end with you. What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Mine is so similar, probably a mix of the two. So my first thought around this question when you asked it was, for me, it's around being brave. So statistically, I think as women as well, if we look at something and we think we can't do all of that job or all of that qualification, we'll think, no, I can't do that, and we won't apply for it. But actually, why not? Which bits of it can you do and which bits can you learn? So that would definitely be something I would tell myself, is just be brave and go for it anyway. And then secondly, and it might sound a bit contradictory, but similar to what Emma's just said around there's not always one route. And if you fall into something and you love it and you find that you've got skills there, then that's okay. You don't have to do what you always thought you were going to do, I suppose, or, what maybe people around you are telling you should do. Actually, if you fall into a role and you think, I absolutely love this, then you can 100% build a career from there. That's what happened for me. I kind of fell into learning and development, and I just thought, never would have considered this as a career, but actually I absolutely love it. And it was about being around people for me. And then I think that probably helped me as I went through my career to be a bit more brave and to take more risks, and to just sort of try and expand my network a bit. So they would be the first two, be around being brave. And if you fall into something, then that's okay. Thirdly, for me, it's about knowing and understanding yourself and the things that are important to you. And we talk an awful lot to our early careers people at Auto Trader about self-reflection and taking the time to look back on the things that you've done that are really, really good, things that maybe you could learn from and do differently next time. but really understanding yourself and the things that matter to you and the things that make a difference. Because if you can find those, that's where you find your energy and the things that are going to motivate you. And I think that's when you find a role where you don't feel like you're at work. You just kind of go to work and you love what you do, and that's the best kind of job to be in, I think. Yeah, they were things from me.
Becky, can I just add? I think the other thing I would say is, maybe 16 might have been a bit too young, but at some point I would have wanted someone to tell me the value of mentors and the value of coaches. There's a difference, obviously, but that kind of mentor, that person, that guide, it is, I really didn't discover that till much later on. Probably I think it's always brilliant to have a mentor, whatever stage you're at, but especially as a young person, I think if you can find that person, it is so helpful. And those relationships can, be quite long lasting and endure, but they can also be very meaningful and pertinent and absolutely support you. A bit like Emma was saying, not everyone has that person who can support them. And if you can, and it might be, it might be someone at your college, or it might be someone in the industry, or it might be someone in another slightly different industry, but who can actually guide you and give you that focus. I think those things are really, really important.
Yeah, it's a really good point to bring in, actually, isn't it? Because you don't have to go into this alone. There's a lot of people out there supporting you. Mm-hmm. I think we've mentioned that there's a huge community in the digital and tech sector that want to give back. So there's people that actively want to support that younger talent coming through. So always feel like you can reach out to those people.
Becky, just to kind of add to those points as well, picking up on what Caroline said, finding out kind of your own strengths and what you value. Is important, and that also translates to when you're thinking about what employers you want to apply for jobs for or apprenticeships for. Doing some research into companies and looking at their values and their culture and what they are and what they do, and whether that fits and resonates with you is really important, because it determines perhaps how you fit into that organisation and how your job sort of entails and how comfortable you feel as well. Does it fit with your own values and outlook? So I would recommend definitely doing that in future, because I had absolutely no idea about those kinds of things. And it's only now working in the tech industry, actually, that thought is front and center, very much so now. But then also picking up on mentoring, Beth, thank you very much, actually. It's a really nice segue into our Digital Her programme, and we're hoping to bring forward some our Mentor Her programme this year for young people and people starting their early careers, to work with people in industry to be mentored. So it is incredibly important and it's very powerful. So anyone that is interested in that can keep an eye on our website and sign up for that when that comes on board.
Absolutely, and we'll make sure we get those details about the Mentor Her programme through our Instagram channel, and we'll get them emailed out to schools and colleges and things like that as well once it's launched. So I'm going to have to say thank you. We didn't get through all the questions today because there's such brilliant answers, but thank you to Emma, Beth and Caroline for taking part.